They gather together, and he asked a question, who do you want me to release? Barabbas, who needs to be here, and you don't want as your next door neighbor, and you want to see him crucified? The one that's a troublemaker, the one that's dealing drugs on the corner, the one that's doing all these things. Is this the one that you want free? I don't think so. Or how about this poor, innocent, kindly, humble Jesus, who's done nothing wrong? I can set one of them free. Barabbas. Or Jesus! Which one? Jesus! Which one do you want? Well, once again, it looked really good on paper. You know what Barabbas means? Son of shame. Son of shame. I wonder if that was his birth name. He comes out and says, "Whoop, looks like son of shame to me." Or was it perhaps he was born out of wedlock and it brought shame on the family, and we'll name him son of shame because that's how he's coming in? I don't know how he got his name. He either did something very horrible that the family changed the name, or something happened before he was born that they gave him the name. But you don't just name your children names like that. You might call them nicknames, but you don't name them that. And so he has the son of shame as a title. So here he is, the son of shame, standing in front of Pilate with Jesus Christ next to him. Who would you have me release? Barabbas or Jesus? In verse 19, while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent him to him, saying, "Have nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things today because of him and his grief." So while this is playing out, Pilate's wife comes in. Now, he's under a little bit of duress and stress here, and I don't know about you, but when you're in a little bit of stress, you have other information come in, and you don't even want to hear it. But she comes and says, "Pilate, I need to talk to you. Honey, I'm really busy right now. I have a lot of things, but I need to talk to you now." "Oh, yes, dear." And she just says, "Don't have anything to do with this man, this just man." Now, I think Pilate understood he wasn't talking about Barabbas. "I've suffered many things today in a dream because of him." The terror of God fell on Pilate's household. That's what happened. She understood that if you do something against him, nothing good is going to happen. You don't understand the dreams that I've recorded because of him. Now, he's been told he's the king of the Jews. He asked him personally, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Yes." "Yes." All these accusations come against him. He's acting bizarre because no one acts that way when they're under this much stress. And he's just calm and silent and looking at his accusers with pity and compassion. And now his wife comes and says, "Pilate, don't get involved in this one. Don't." Now remember, in Zechariah, he's described as being just, having salvation. And I'm sure Pilate doesn't understand scriptures and know it, but she uses this term, says, "Don't have anything to do with this just man." That means don't do anything to this man who has no charges against him. He's innocent. You and I both know he's not done anything wrong. Don't go along with their program. And while she's talking to him, one voice, there's another multitude of voices rising up in verse 20. And if you look at verse 20, "But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the multitudes that they should ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus." So while she's talking to Pilate, they're working the crowd. That means the chief priests and the elders, they have all these little minions, if you will, going out and persuading people and maybe bribing them and saying, "How much will you take to accuse Jesus and let Barabbas go free? 3 coins, here's 3. 5, 5. But just yell Barabbas," and they're going and they persuade the crowd. We don't know how they did it, but we know that they persuaded the multitudes to demand Barabbas to be released for Jesus to be crucified. Once again, I don't know how they did it, but I know they worked the crowd and they worked it well, because in a little bit of time, the crowd is asking for Barabbas to be freed and Jesus to be crucified. And when he hears that, he's perplexed. If you look at the next verse 21 and 23, it's quite ironic. The governor answers and said to them, "Which of these two do you want me to release to you?" They said, "Barabbas." And Pilate said to them, "Then what will I do with Jesus who is called Christ?" They all said to him, "Let him be crucified." Then the governor said, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they cried all the more, "Let him be crucified." And they started chanting crucifixion for Jesus Christ. So he has this perfect plan on paper. He has the very worst criminal he can find in confinement, Barabbas, and they have the one who's done nothing wrong. He brings him and says, "Who do you want me to let go?" The custom is, I can release one of these two to you. Which one do you think deserves to be released? And he's hoping they choose Jesus, but they don't. And in some sense, it's a really good thing they didn't choose Jesus, because then we would have no salvation. But on the other hand, these people want Jesus to die for no reason whatsoever. And when he asks the question, he gets a reply back he did not expect. They start chanting for Barabbas to be free. Barabbas! 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 And Pilate asks him a question, "Well, what do I do with Jesus?" That's a great question. What do you do with Jesus? And hopefully you receive him. But he asked a question, what to do with Jesus Christ? And they all said to him, "Well, crucify him." You let Barabbas go. Crucify him. And the governor asked another question. He said, "Why? What has he done worth of death? What has he done that we should crucify him?" But there's no reasoning with this crowd now. Now they're just chanting and yelling, "Crucify, crucify, crucify." And you can see them in their robes, bringing up their arms and chanting to people, getting to yell and scream for Jesus to be crucified and Barabbas to be free. I mean, it's a very honest question. What evil has he done? The answer is nothing. He's done nothing. In 24 and 25, next two verses in Matthew 27. When Pilate saw that he could not prevail at all, but rather that the tumult was rising, he took water and he washed his hands before the multitude. And he says, "I am innocent of this blood of this just person. You see to it." And all the people answered and said, "His blood be on us and our children." Now they would get the symbolic gesture that Pilate was making. See, at the temple they have this big thing outside by the brazen altar called a laver or a seat. And what the priests have to do before they go and minister for God, they have to go and they have to roll up their robes, they have to dip their hands in this water, and they have to cleanse themselves and go through a whole ritual so that they would take sin off them. They would bring themselves from defilement, and they would take sin away or cleanse them symbolically before they ministered before the Lord. So governor knew that one custom. He brings a bowl of water out. He says, "I'm cleansing myself in this situation. I want nothing to do with that. I know he's done nothing wrong. My wife knows he's done nothing wrong. Why do you want him dead so badly?" And he just said, "I'm innocent of this man's blood. I'm not going to shed it. If you want to do it, you go ahead, but I'm not going to be a part of this." And their response is so ironic and so profound. "His blood be on us and our children." It better be. See, the blood of Jesus, and they didn't know what they were saying, but if Jesus' blood is not applied to our account, we have no hope. So although they don't understand what they're saying, what they're asking for has to happen or you can't be with him. Matter of fact, he said, "Unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no part in me." He said that earlier in the book of John, but here they're saying, we will be fully responsible for his blood. Us and our children, our lineage, all of us will be responsible for it. Just crucify him. What they're really saying is, we will be fully responsible. They're really signing a waiver saying anything that happens after this is on us. We'll take full responsibility. Although they don't realize what they're saying, they need his blood. See, Isaiah 53:5 is another messianic passage. And it says, "He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him. By his stripes we are healed. He had to suffer for us. See, his blood was shed so that we could be forgiven. Now, they didn't know that. They just wanted Jesus dead and was taking responsibility for it. But it was for us. It was for our deliverance that Jesus Christ would die. In verse 26, then he released Barabbas to them, and when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. Now, I don't know if you can picture this with me, but Barabbas was not a nice man. He wasn't. He was an evil man, and he deserved death. And I don't know if this happened per se, but let's say you owe Barabbas some money. Well, he's locked up. You don't ever owe him again. He's going to die. So you're like, I'm off the hook. I don't have to pay that bet I lost, or whatever the case is. All of a sudden, you get a knock on the door. Who is it? Barabbas. Oh, what? Who? Barabbas. Barabbas who? Barabbas, you owe me some money. Oh, that Barabbas. But you're on death row. Not anymore. How do I know it's Barabbas? You owe me 45 denarii. It's Barabbas. What happened? Jesus took my place. I'm a free man. And that's what happened. He was telling everybody someone else took his place. Jesus. Jesus is dying in my place. They were going to release somebody, and they chose me because of my good looks. We don't know why. But here, the guilty one is turned loose. And this is the great exchange. The one who is guilty and worthy of death goes free, and the one who's done nothing deserving death dies in his place. It's the greatest exchange of all history. Because you and I are Barabbas.